at 6:30 p.m. This meeting will take place partially remotely pursuant to the law signed by Governor Baker on February 16th, 2022, an act further extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which includes an extension until July 15th of 2022 of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12th, 2020 executive order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. And this meeting will be recorded. I need a roll call, so we'll start in the Zoom room. Mr. Russell? Mr. Russell, roll call. I don't know. Terry, can you hear me?
Oh, wait, Susan, I'm sorry.
You might want to mute him while they're talking.
My sincere apologies.
You have to start all over.
We do?
It's fine.
Start all over?
No. We did.
All right.
All that.
Roll call attendance. Mr. Russell?
Okay. Here.
Miss Rogers? Miss Rogers, roll call. I don't know.
You can go back.
Jessica, can you hear us? Miss Games?
Present.
Miss Scott?
Present.
Ms. Zebrat Long?
Present.
And I am here.
Try again.
Miss Rogers, can you hear us? Okay. Are we? We're good. Okay. So we are beginning our meeting at 6:35. The first thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our February 17th, 2022 MRSC meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Rogers? Ms. Games?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Ms. Zebrat Long?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Moving on to public comment. Anyone out there for public comment? Okay. Moving on to reports and discussion. The first on our agenda is the SEED program that's happening at Harwich Elementary School, and I will welcome Mrs. Olduck to the microphone.
Thank you. I'm Mary Oldak, very proud principal of Harwich Elementary School. And tonight I'm here with 3 of the 4 high schoolers that we have involved in a program that they created for our school, the SEAD initiative. I can't tell you how proud I am of these high school students and their initiative. Social emotional learning has been the focus of our strategic plan under strategic objective 2 for 3 years now. Monomoy has become a leader in the state with our initiatives, and I really think that this program really embodies the fruits and the outcomes of what we have poured into our students for social emotional learning. This is the castle wheel that we all have come to know and love, that the district adopted, and the 5 social emotional competencies that we strive to develop in all of our cells as staff members and our students as well. And when I reflect back on how this program came to be, I really think that this program and the initiatives that these girls show really is such a beautiful example of how all of that we've poured into social emotional learning, how it comes full circle, and how they give back to our younger kids. For those of you who may not be as aware of what all the 5 social emotional competencies, so they really exhibit their self-awareness and how they recognize their strengths and what they have to give to our first graders at Harwich Elementary. Their social awareness and their empathy for students who may need more connection in their learning. Their responsible decision-making of recognizing a need and developing a plan and presenting us with a proposal. Annalise Langelier first came to Melissa McGuire back in, I think, August with a actual proposal for what she wanted to do along with mentors that she was going to recruit. Self-management, just the organizational skills. I have to say that the commitment that these young women have shown to our school rivals that of any other volunteer group that we've ever had at Harwich Elementary. They've been at it twice a week, all school year long, just taking a break for midterms. And relationship skills, communication, social engagement, relationship building, teamwork. They just really embody everything that we hope to develop in all of our kids here at Monomoy. So I don't want to take away from their presentation that they've done such a beautiful job with, and they'll give you all of the details about what they're doing at Harwich Elementary and the outcomes that we're seeing.
Good evening. My name is Annalise Langelier. I'm a sophomore at Monomoy Regional High School. Last August, I realized that there was a need within the community for more social-emotional support for younger students in the elementary schools. I started by meeting with Sheila House, who's the Harwich Town Councilor, to brainstorm ideas of how I could target this issue. She suggested that I meet with Ms. McGuire, who's the Director of Student Services at Monomoy, and she gave me a lot of information about the social-emotional screenings used at the elementary school. I then met with Mrs. Oldak, who's the principal at Harwich Elementary School, to discuss the logistics of the program. We began the program in October of 2021. We meet twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 8:30, and we work with 4 first grade students. So the program is mentor-based. It consists of 4 sophomore mentors, myself, Talia Perez, Natalie Larrabee, and Emily Gray. There are 3 aspects to the program. The social aspect is targeted by making sure the students have conversations with each other, and we also have conversations with the students. We had a lot of shy students when we began the program, but as we've continued, they've begun to initiate conversations with us and each other. They tell us about things in their lives. And we also try to teach them how to have respectful conversations in a group setting as opposed to a traditional classroom setting. So they're learning how to have conversations with each other without having to raise their hand and ask permission to speak. The emotional aspect of the program has 2 sides to it. The first is we discuss the characters' emotions in the books that we read while providing real-life examples to help the students relate to the stories. We ask them questions about how they might react to certain situations in the story. And we emphasize the impact that their actions can have on others' emotions, both positive and negative. The second aspect of the emotional part of the program is when students give us information about their lives, whether it be positive or negative, we try to give them coping skills to help them get through difficult situations, and we also like to celebrate exciting things with them. And the academic part of the program, we try to enrich the students' education by exposing them to different kinds of people, places, and things. We answer their questions about the stories we read to the best of our ability. We ask them comprehension questions during the reading while we're going through it to make sure that they're understanding the stories that we're reading. And we also use critical thinking skills during the craft session to create what they're picturing in their heads. So this slide contains data from the SSIS SEL Edition Screening and Progress Monitoring Scales, which is the SEL screening used at the elementary school. I have results from 2 students. This is the first student, and the chart reads from right to left. So if you look at the right column, you can see that the student is proficient in most categories, but emerging in some, and that's from October. And then if you look at the left column, the data is from January, and the students become proficient in every single category. And then for student B, you can see on the right column that the student's emerging in almost every category. And on the left column, in January, the student became proficient in almost every category.
All right, so a big part of the group is reading and discussing the books we read. Mrs. Eidman and Mrs. Hughes have been giving us recommendations, have been super helpful for us. They tag the SEL books in the libraries, making them very easy to locate. And they try to keep the students' interests in mind. And one thing we've noticed while reading the books is that the students are very respectful. They ask if they can see the page, or, oh, this person can't see, can you tilt a little? But they were very shy at first. So doing this program, they become more comfortable with us and more comfortable asking questions and making sure that they are receiving the right amount of the book. Sorry, I blanked on the word. And in this picture, I'm reading Horton Hears a Who, and especially in this book, they were very interested in the pictures, and so, oh, can you show me? Can I see it again? And they were moving around just to get a better look and being very respectful and asking questions.
We do one craft a week. Sometimes they're related to the books that we read, and sometimes they're not, but it's a great opportunity for them to express their creativity. It's also a great opportunity for them to ask for things from each other and interact with their peers and just learn how to share. And it's very open-ended, and they can experiment with the different materials that we have. For example, one student wanted to make a tower out of paper, and so he kept experimenting with what he wanted to do until he got the desired outcome. So it just gives them a great opportunity to be creative.
I just want to thank a few people who've really helped this program come to fruition. Mrs. Eidman, the Harwich Elementary School librarian, Mrs. Oldak and Mrs. Hughes, the principal and assistant principal at Harwich Elementary School, Ms. McGuire, the director of student services, Meredith Henderson, my mom, who's been very supportive and really helped me get this going, and she's been very supportive through the whole process, and Sheila House, the Harwich Youth Council, and especially to the mentors that helped me successfully run this program. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the program.
Any questions, comments? Ms. Zebra-Long?
That is quite impressive for all of you. What is the plan moving forward? Growth of the program, you're going to do it through the spring? What are you thinking?
So at this time, we're just going to continue the program with the 4 students we're working with right now. And in the spring, we may meet to discuss any changes we might make next year. We might add more students, more mentors. We're going to discuss that later in the year after we're finished with this year's program.
And would you come back and give us an update? So if you plan to increase the amount of students you're seeing or something like that?
Yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you. Great work.
Any other questions, Danielle? Oh, actually, can I just, for the record, for the minutes, acknowledge that Ms. Tully arrived at 6:34.
Apologies.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for sharing all this. This is really incredible and inspiring. And I'm so curious of, you began by saying that you recognized there was a need for greater social emotional education for the younger students. What was it that tipped you off, or how did you come to recognize that need existed?
I think definitely my interactions with family members and friends, students that I know that are younger in the elementary school, and even with students at my own level, I recognized that maybe it would be beneficial to students to have something early in their school career to give them the foundation to be able to build the social emotional learning skills that they can use continuing all the way to high school.
Ms. Stout, I think?
Yes.
Sharon, can you turn your video on?
Say that again?
Can you turn your video on?
My video's not on.
No.
Unless you're in a closet.
It's on here.
Oh,
Now it's off. Now it's on.
okay.
Can you see me now?
No, your camera must be covered up, but go ahead with your question or comment.
So I'm very impressed about this, and I wonder how the students were chosen, and honestly, I think that a program that could expand to every classroom and probably most of the kids. Were you involved with choosing the kids, or did the school pick the kids? And have you thought at all about, has anyone from school or any one of you students thought about how it possibly could expand? It's very exciting.
Yes, so the school, the guidance office at Harch Elementary School, as well as the principals, use the SSIS SEL addition screening and processing monitor scales. The students who were tagged as at risk level, most at risk, those were the students that were chosen for the program to help them improve their scores on the screening. And we definitely have discussed expanding the program. I think we're going to make more decisions about that later in the year, but we definitely like to expand the program, and I think that it would be really exciting to work with more students than we are working with now.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions, comments?
I just want to say great job. I always love these types of programs and projects that are inspired by our students. So this was really amazing and inspirational. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to pass the mic back to Mrs. Olduck for a moment. Thank you.
I just wanted to follow up to Ms. Stout's question. The students were chosen based upon, Annalise is exactly right, their scores on the SSIS, but also with a lens towards students who have had a traumatic loss in their lives and who could really benefit from this type of connection with an older student. And so right now we've had 4 to 5 children from first grade involved in the program during the year. I wanted to just thank Emily and Talia, Annalise, and Natalie, who's not able to be here tonight with us, by giving them a very highly sought after jumbo fantastic sticker. I just wanted to tell you the story behind these. As with many inventions in our world, these were a mistake, a printing error. There's a limited supply. The ones that the kids get are about the size of a quarter. So we have a very limited supply of these, and they're handed out to very special situations and recipients for being fantastic, which is our PBIS model for our school for being respectful, responsible, safe, and ready to learn. And so I'm just going to give one, if you ladies could come on up, one to each of you. Thank you, Talia. Thank you, Annalise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you. And here is one for Natalie when she gets done with driver's ed, please. Again, just so heartwarming, and you're exactly right, Ms. Games. It is just so wonderful to see this come from within and from our own kids. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just, I have to give a plug. It's the mom and me, but I know these 3 girls and Natalie are doing great things, and you know, great things are coming. One great thing for Annalise is she was just accepted into the FBI National Academy Association Youth Leadership Program as the only student from the New England region, and she will be going to Quantico, Virginia for the Youth Leadership Program in June. So I'm pretty proud. So thank you, ladies. Great presentation.
Thank you. Wow.
Okay, moving on to the regional agreement revisions from DESE. Oh, I'm sorry. The introduction to the, I know, I got excited. I'm sorry. The introduction to the student advisory to the school committee. So last year we planned on having students join us so that we had a student voice. And tonight, I believe they are both on Zoom.
Oh, good.
We would like to welcome Molly Graham, who I think is,
On the right.
do you see her? Okay.
Molly
And Christina Tomasic. So they are our student advisory committee to the school committee, and they will be rotating their attendance at our meetings in the future. And we're planning to have them join some of our subcommittee meetings as well to become more of a voice on our committee.
Fantastic. Great.
Welcome, Christina and Molly. Would you ladies like to say anything? Okay. Well, just welcome then. All right, now we're going to move on to number 3, the regional agreement revisions from DESI.
So this can be fairly quick. We are down to one substantive change that we are trying to work through. So we had a list of a number of really minor, little word here, little word there type of changes that DESI wanted to see to the regional agreement. They sent what we sent them through their lawyers, so this is the first time that it actually has gone through the whole legal review, and there's only one thing that they came back with. So I was on the phone with Mark Terry earlier today on this because we got the feedback from them late yesterday. So, and of course, the one line is the one that I think has a lot of angst behind it, and it's the how do we vote on the budget. So in what we had sent them in this, was that that we would have the budgeting vote process would say that the language currently says that the Budget Finance Subcommittee, because we talked about putting in this Budget Finance Subcommittee to address it, that the Budget Finance Subcommittee shall approve a proposed budget by majority vote. Then the what we send them says, said proposed budget shall be approved by majority vote of the Regional School District Committee. DESI's lawyers were concerned about the second use of the word shall, because when something comes from a subcommittee back to the committee, it comes as a recommendation, and the committee as a whole has to go and vet it. So where the correspondence has left off, and Mark Terry and I just said, let's just send them a sentence, and will this work? So the sentence that we sent them is, says that said proposed budget shall be approved by majority vote of the Regional School Districts Committee, would change to said proposed budget is subject to approval by majority vote of the regional agreement, of the Regional District School Committee. So instead of saying just shall be approved, that it is subject, that it's subject to approval. I'm thinking that that's going to get their blessing, and we'll have a final copy to bring back here by our next meeting that has been vetted by legal counsel at DESI. I am hopeful that it's also been vetted by counsel in both towns, and we can vote and have a final regional agreement that we can start printing and disseminating, and this is the document. The last, we'll call it minor little thing, is the last page of it, we had sort of a signatory page, and there was a spot for this commissioner to sign, and DESI has said that they would like to not have the commissioner sign this iteration, knowing that we are going to be coming back and editing the rest, and that they would have the commissioner sign off when we've updated everything, but instead they would issue a letter saying that he has approved the regional agreement that has been passed.
Wow.
And there you have it. Any questions, comments? Ms. Tolley?
When does the warrant close for Harwich's annual town meeting?
I don't know exactly when, but we do have time, but we're kind of pushing on DESI because our window keeps narrowing.
Okay. I think it's at the end of March, but I'm not sure.
I was going to say March.
Yeah. I think it's the end of March.
Any other questions, comments? All right, moving right along to a strategic plan update.
Yes, so we are currently in our process having conversations with facilitators that have come through recommendation that Scott has reached or, received recommendations for. I know Sharon has been receiving recommendations as well. So that's kind of what's happening in this moment. But I wanted to give a more general update to the full committee just to make sure you are all aware of kind of the bigger scope of what we're talking about when we are envisioning our strategic planning process. And so that is, our steering committee has come up with a list of outcomes that we want this process to yield. And so I'll share them with you. And that basically means, what does success look like when we're all done at the end of our strategic planning process? And so it's creation of a values-based vision and guide for the next 3 to 5 years that gives the district focus and an accountable framework for decision-making. It includes a section on core values for the district. It includes several clear, well-defined, and ambitious goals that make the greatest gain for the greatest number of students. It includes key metrics for tracking and measuring progress. It includes a portrait of a graduate, or it's also known as a vision of a graduate. And it aligns our core values, mission, and portrait of a graduate. And then one of the other key outcomes is that towns feel more energized about our schools. We realize that this is a unique time in our district with the changes to the regional agreement, and it's been noted that that has caused some anxiety and stress in communities, and so we are really hopeful and intending for this process to be a collaborative, community-building, engaging process for both towns and all who choose to be part of it. So those are kind of the outcomes, those are the outcomes that we've identified as being, critical and what success will look like when we're all done. And so we're identifying the scope of the work, specifics as we think about how best to approach aligning all of those outcomes with the facilitator and having conversations to see who could be a good fit and how we can kind of fit those pieces together to achieve the outcomes that we want. We will be coming to you with kind of for your approval to sign off on the full scope of the work, and then put forth recommendation for facilitator, and then ask for your approval on a facilitator that we would move forward with. And some of the other key steps in our process are that we really want to assess kind of where our community is with regard to our values and our priorities. We don't just want to assume that we're just carrying on from the last strategic plan. We very much want to build off of the momentum from the last strategic plan, but we don't want to assume anything at this point either. So we feel it's really important to get community feedback to make sure that we are still aligning and identifying and aligning with the values of the community and the priorities of the community. And that's connected to kind of the portrait of a graduate, and I'll speak a little bit more about that too. We want to involve a wide variety of stakeholders at the most impactful and insightful times. Cultivate the culture of how we are working, learning, and growing together as a district, and that means, avoid making this stressful, really embodying that spirit of collaboration and possibility and imagination and really consensus building. Identify the broad goals and metrics to be included in the strategic plan, and assess and honor the current work that's going on and build on the momentum of where we are now. I think I shared this with the full committee before. Our goal is to adopt the new strategic plan by Thanksgiving break. Based on some of the conversations that we've been having with consultants, we may need to revisit that timeline, but that's still to be determined at this point. And so one of the aspects that I mentioned as a key outcome of this process is developing the portrait or the vision of a graduate. And the portrait and vision of a graduate, these are, I guess, kind of guiding, a guiding framework for a district to think about not just what does academic success look like for a high school student graduating, but what is threaded throughout K through 12 education at each level at the end of each school year that is all building and scaffolding toward this vision of what we want our students to be able to do and who we want them to be able to be in the world. So it includes academic skills, but it also very much includes other skills that, people skills, deep listening, emotional intelligence, any of those other kind of values. I would call those kind of like the how people are being in the world type of qualities. So that, that portrait of the graduate is really a community influenced activity where we want to have a very, very wide range of stakeholders who are all contributing to it, because essentially it's asking the question of these people, or these children, these students are going to be graduating from our district, and what do we want them to be able to do in our community? How do we want them to be able to be part of the community? What's important in our community and to thrive and succeed and be part of the community? So we really want to hear a wide range of perspectives and input when it comes to identifying the skills that are our top priorities. And the idea too is that the portrait of a graduate establishes a transferable set of skills that kind of cuts across all content areas, that they move between what they might be learning in any specific academic category. So that's the portrait of a graduate. And then we have some working questions that we are integrating into our process. And so I want to share these with you all and then open it up for feedback on all of this, specifically questions that you would like to see us also be threading through our process as we continue to move forward. So the questions that we're exploring are, are these still our values, meaning the values that were stated in our current and previous strategic plan? Are these the things that we want to be working on, what we have stated from the current iteration of our strategic plan that they're in? What are the roles of key stakeholder groups in developing the strategic plan? When and how are the best ways to involve different folks at different points in this process? What pieces should and can voters and the larger community be involved in? How do we define stakeholders? How can we actually measure the impact of our strategic plan? And what outcomes-based measurements do we need to implement? So those are questions that we're sitting with that we will be, like I said, threading through once we choose a facilitator and are working with the facilitator to shape the planning, the actual planning process, we'll be, those questions will be part of that as well, and kind of guiding that process. So all of that said, I open it up to any questions about everything I've just laid out.
Any discussion? Ms. Seabrett-Long?
I have a couple comments, and then we can go from there. Very colorful and detailed exploration of what you guys have been working on. I think it's fantastic. It's good to see the strategic plan kind of up and running again. I mean, it's always running, but to see the planning in action. I would say that we are liaisons for that committee, so if this is going to be a presentation, that maybe we have a packet with all that information you're reading off your phone would be more beneficial, so I could be prepared to answer questions before it's on the agenda, and also so that we can have it in front of us and not have to write notes, because I just stopped. I was like, I can't, because it's important information, right? So if we're reporting out on behalf of the school committee, we're a liaison, we're reporting out on an update. If we're doing a strategic plan presentation, it would be helpful to have the materials in front of us, and learning curve, so it's totally fine. And then second to that, I guess as a liaison question to you and to Jess is also on that committee, correct?
I think it's Sharon.
Or Sharon, I'm sorry. I'm hearing a lot of planning around the details of the strategic plan, but what I'm not hearing as a school committee member is what are you guys doing to formulate some type of a budget for this, and what information do you have on that?
Yep. So we're currently talking with a few potential facilitators and consultants, laying out what our outcomes are, what we want to have, and then seeing where they come in with what kind of proposals they can send us that give us figures for that. So we're currently gathering all of that information, and we'll be presenting that to you.
So you're not starting with a figure?
Great, correct.
Do you think it's a good idea to start with a figure and then work within that for what we can do?
Well, we know that there's
That's
40
just a question, it's not
Yeah.
to the whole strategic plan steering
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah.
And you could go back with that.
Yeah, well, we know that there's a $40,000 allotment each year given to the strategic plan, so that's kind of, we know that that number exists, that we can use as information as we start to,
Not each year.
Yeah.
not each year, is
Every.
it every 3 years?
We're carrying 40,000 in this upcoming year's budget, and I think it, so presuming that a year from now we are carrying money, I think it's, as we go through the budget season, we earmark money just so that we, if we have an initiative for the strategic plan, we'll earmark money, but we have a placeholder in there. When we did this almost 4 years ago, we carried, we had a placeholder for 40,000. We actually expended only 10 in the way we did that, which allowed us to go and shift the other 30 to help move initiatives forward.
Yeah, and I think that that's probably a good goal to have, is not spending $40,000 on a strategic plan and maybe looking to see what you guys come up with for what we need and what's a reasonable expectation within that budget to go forward. I feel the strategic plan is extremely important, but we have so many things on hold in our district. So although it's a placeholder, I don't feel comfortable looking at that whole number that we have all of this money to spend, because we don't. So I just wanted to know what you guys were doing to come up with some type of a budget. I get that there's 40,000 in the line item, but I couldn't consciously, responsibly use that money towards a strategic plan. So I didn't know what other factors you guys were using other than just that.
Yeah, and like I said, we're starting with the outcomes in mind, identifying what's important to us and what we want to get out of it, and then seeing, who could be a good fit for us, who, or which company, or, any sort of, there's several people, or different ways that this could be kind of all, we could come to the same outcomes, but maybe there are a few different people who do it. So we're getting all that information, seeing what, there's such a wide range of rates and services that people offer. So we're doing our best to gather that information, and we're just gathering data at this point. Knowing what we've spent in the past, knowing what other districts on the Cape have spent for doing similar strategic plan. There's such a range, so I think that's the decision that we will make as a school committee is, what is the financial value that we're willing to say a strategic plan is worth.
The information about what other districts are doing would be really valuable. What's realistic for the Cape and even Massachusetts. That would be really good information to provide to the school committee level.
Ms. Rogers?
I think that it's great that you're going to take other districts' processes into consideration when coming up with this strategic plan. My suggestion would be to take meetings with the principals just to see what they see within their school. Over the last couple of weeks, I've done tours of all the schools and met with each of the principals just to kind of get an idea of what's going on at each of the schools and how we can support them. And there's some really exciting and interesting ideas out there. So I think that would be a really great thing to incorporate if you hadn't thought of so already.
Thank you. Sharon? Ms. Stout?
Thank you. I just would add, having been involved with a lot of strategic plans, that most of them are fairly internally done. And we're just finding people now and seeing what they have to offer, even though we do have some good ideas of what we'd like. But I think to Jackie's point about money, that if we could find a superstar kind of person that really would engage the community and do all the things we'd like, it would be worth, I'm not going to put a dollar amount on it, but so far we've seen people charging like $30,000 to like $8,000 or something. But so for many.
Oh, Sharon, we lost your audio.
But I have no idea if we're going to find that. Scott and Mark maybe have seen 3. I've seen 2 of those, and we'll just see when we finish vetting people what there is. And then, of course, the committee will decide on money when we have it all ready. But thank you for asking that question, Jackie.
Sharon, you kind of froze there for a minute. You saw 2 and 3 of what?
Oh yes, so I think Mark and Scott spoke, or one or the other spoke with 3 different groups, and then I was there for 2. I'm not sure if Daniel was there for 1 or 2. The other one we didn't see at all, but we'll look into that, and we'll look into a few others and just see what there is out there. And then, like anything else, you have to see what the value is of what your options are before you make a decision what's worth what. Something might be worth a lot more money than something else, but at this point we don't have that information yet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything, Ms. Scott?
Is there a way to do like a request for proposals from the consultants versus just, I heard this is a good one, I heard this is a good one, reach out to them, see what they offer? Is there we're going to put a blanket request for a proposal for a strategic planning consultant, and they give you what they provide. You choose who to interview and then bring to us whoever the recommendation is.
We do have that as part of our process, putting out an RFP. At this point, we're gathering information specifically around the components that we're looking for as outcomes. Part of this is we've identified the portrait of a graduate or the vision of a graduate as one of the things that is critical to integrate into our strategic planning process. Not everybody offers that as a facilitator. So we are trying to define, identify what it looks like when people can offer it as kind of one package, that they do the portrait of a graduate and strategic planning, or finding facilitators who can just do a strategic planning process and another person who might be able to do portrait of a graduate. So we're gathering information kind of about the way these pieces work or could work together right now, with the intention of ultimately deciding which way we want to go and then putting out an RFP for that specific way. Okay. And bringing that to the committee for, I have the dates here. Well, and there's also, well, we have in our language, we're saying putting out a bid on March 25th. But there are parameters around the threshold for cost, correct, Scott? That we're keeping in mind as well as we think through the way that we might approach this.
I have concern that time's going to get away. So if you, well, I understand where you're going with wanting certain outcomes and certain objectives. I feel like you're actually getting into the process before getting into the process. So, and I look at it as if you find a facilitator that you work well with, or the steering committee works well with, and feel like they are going to bring out the best, then you work from there versus seeing what the facilitator provides. But like I said, I feel like time's going to get away. Before you know it, it's going to be the summertime, and we're not going to be able to have that planning process done. I mean, our strategic plan currently expires the end of June, if I remember correctly. And so, you know, granted, that one's just going to continue on because it's got good stuff in there that we want to continue. And I just, like I said, I feel like time's going to get away. And if you nail down a facilitator sooner than later, that will help guide the process more.
Yeah, and to speak to that, I mean, we have a very clear timeline that we're working on. And we have, our timeline is that we will be asking you at the April 28th meeting to vote on a facilitator. You know, that we will have presented to you options. You can look them through, we can discuss it, and, you know, so that's our mark, that we're aiming to have a facilitator ready to go April 29th.
The steering committee does.
No, the school committee.
No, the steering committee has the goal of
Oh,
voting
yes,
by the end
yeah,
of April.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Gaines?
Yeah, just a couple of things. And I don't know if this will help, but I'm certainly, like, MASC is such a good resource, so I don't know if you want me to make a connection. I'm sure, I mean, many school districts do strategic plans, so it sounds like you've got something specific in mind with this portrait of a graduate. So if you want me to just see, I'll just make a connection.
Okay, that'd be
Okay.
great. I know Sharon
So-
has reached out to MASC as well.
Oh, you have? Okay, good, as long as Sharon's doing it.
But I'm not sure if there's a different avenue that you
Okay.
have access to with your, what your position is.
Yeah, my
What-
division officer
Your division
position.
officer hat?
Yes.
If you get to
I
go
know, I
into
need my name
the
tag.
door behind the secret door or something.
Yeah, the secret, but anyway, if Sharon's doing it, but I might be able to step in as well. And just real quickly, portrait of a graduate. I will admit that I haven't heard of that before, and I guess my one concern about it, and I assume, when I say portrait of a graduate, it sounds so broad, so I would just ask that whoever's weighing in, or however you're going to put this together, really thinks about every possible scenario of a graduate. Because I kind of worry when I hear things like that it's just not going to capture everybody. It's always my concern.
Yeah, and maybe, is Mark here? Yes. Yeah, Mark, this.
Oh, there he is.
You know,
Wow, that was quick.
Mark is who full-throatedly requested that this be part of our outcomes.
Thank you.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, so Portrait of the Graduate is meant to be, so when it would be developed, so there would be this community-wide process, right? And I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version, but essentially the idea is the community would come together to determine what are the skills and competencies that we would want to see in a graduate when they walk across the stage. And they're beyond the academic skills that we're looking, right? So, and you can go home and Google Portrait of the Graduate, and you'll see other communities that have developed Portrait of the Graduate. But like one competency might be critical thinking. Like we want all of our graduates, when they walk across the stage, to be critical thinkers. And then you define under that, like what are some of the specific, like what does that look like for critical thinking? Another one might be perseverance, right? So we want to develop perseverance in our graduates, and then we define under that what those specific things are. But they are like the skills that cut across academics, that cut across life skills. They're bigger and broader than just academic skills. They are the things that are going to help them be successful in life, in the job market and beyond the job market, that are going to set them up to be successful in the world. So you have to do some future thinking, like the process has people think about the world as it presently is and sort of push to where they think the world is going to be heading. And what are those skills and competencies that graduates are going to need to be successful regardless of where they go and where they land, right? So does that make sense? and
Yeah,
help?
it does help. Yeah, it helps. Thank you for that.
Ms. Seabright-Long?
Yeah, so the way, and Mark, I think I'm all set. No, I think I'm good. The way that, Danielle, you were explaining it is that the picture of the graduate is a separate project, I guess we would call it, than the strategic plan. So the way I'm looking at it is, can that be part of the strategic plan? But you're saying it's two things, or you're trying to determine whether it can be part of it or has to be two separate things?
So it's, the Portrait of a Graduate is its own separate project.
Okay.
And we want it to be integrated into the strategic plan.
Got it. Okay.
And
Super
so
clear.
kind of doing both of them is critical to
Okay.
sync them up, because it makes no sense to do a Portrait of a Graduate if a strategic plan doesn't align with it.
Perfect. Nope, that makes sense. I was just trying to like get a grasp on that. So I totally get that. I'm going to go back to what Nancy said. I kind of feel like it's flip-flopped right now, where our goals should be how we're going to make it happen, and then it's going to be about the details about our strategic plan, Portrait of a Graduate, and how it's going to work, and finding the facilitator that shares the values and the vision that our steering committee has. And I think that the conversation we're having tonight and the presentation you gave is a much bigger conversation, which would be great to have a presentation on. And I don't know if we need to have a presentation on that before we choose who the facilitator is, but I feel like that's the steering committee's job. To pick your top three or whatever it is, and then you present it to the school committee. So, I mean, as much as I'd love to talk about all the great ideas tonight, but I think everybody's been doing a good job, and I just feel like it was kind of flip-flopped, and now I've got the portrait thing to understand too, so I'm good.
Okay, yeah, I think there was a little bit of miscommunication when the agenda was being set as far as what specifically we would be talking about tonight and what material should or would have needed to be included, and so apologies for that. So the intention tonight was to give you this scope of the work, like lay out the elements that we're talking about, that we want it to include a Portrait of a Graduate. We want it to have these outcomes of, community engagement and being an energizing process for our community, and share with you where we are in the process of making that happen, which is trying to identify potential facilitators who might be a good fit to achieve our outcomes. So I think I'm a little confused in when I hear you say that it feels flip-flopped. So can you explain that again, what you mean by it feeling flip-flopped?
Yeah, well, I feel like the role of the facilitator is to help help create the ideas you guys are creating right now, and help them come to life.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah, and we are shifting that model a little bit.
But you also have to have an idea of what your idea, you have to have an idea of what you're looking for. And we have a model, we have what we're doing now, and maybe you want to make it look totally different the next time we have the strategic plan. But I just feel like we kind of have the cart before the horse. So that's why I asked the question about the budget. I'm like, well, I know we've got this $40,000 budget, but what have you guys talked about as factors?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and you guys have done a lot of work and a lot of talking about the design of this, but we're not there yet.
Yeah,
Because the steering committee should be working on who's going to do it with you guys. And like you have a timeline. I would have loved to have seen a timeline in a liaison, like a timeline in a liaison report, which is what you guys are, would have been perfect. And like a brief, so I'm not sure where the confusion was with it being, so for me, reports and discussions is like presentation. I guess that's the way I look at it. And liaison report is our liaison reporting on like, here's the update, and then us going, hey, we'd really like more information on that. Can we put it on an agenda to have a presentation? Does that help?
I think so. Can we talk after about this a little
Absolutely,
bit more? Okay.
yeah.
And just for clarity, the reason why it's under reports and discussion is because we just talked about having an update to where you are. So I think that you gave us more beyond what I ever thought you would. Like just,
Okay.
a quick, so it was great. A lot of great information, but maybe moving forward, when we talk, we could do a more formal
Okay.
plan.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, it's just a matter of design of so I'm looking at it for a presentation. I'm like, I've got nothing the audience has nothing. So that's kind of where I was going with it. I mean,
Okay.
but it's fine. It's
Okay, okay, yeah. And can I just speak to one more thing? Just to note that we're using a framework called POP, which is Purpose, Outcomes, Process. So very, very often, people go right into the process part of doing something, which is the who, what, when, where, how. But we backed up and said, well, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of doing this? What are the outcomes that we want to have doing it? And then what's the process that we go through in order to achieve those outcomes? So it is, I understand now if you're saying it feels a little flip-flopped, because it is flipping that, the go-to instinct that most people have of like, figure out those things right away. But we're kind of going deeper and more intentional in our planning process. So I think I understand where you're coming from, and I hope that clarifies where we are coming from.
No, it does. Perfect. Thank you.
And just, can you remind me who's on the committee again? The strategic planning? I know you and Sharon, and I guess Mark.
and Scott.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you. So it's just the four of you. Okay, that's fine.
All right, moving on to our first reading of the 2022-2023 Mrse school calendar. For clarity, the calendar's on one side, and then just for space purposes, the school committee schedule is on the back side for all to see. Any questions, comments?
Any major changes? Just kind of the same, okay. Without me going back and forth between two different calendars, I figured it's just easier to ask.
180 days.
And Labor Day is happening,
On the
and then
5th.
school instead of school, then Labor Day. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
5,000 years ago.
I know, right?
So it's
Or maybe last
after
month.
Labor Day.
Who knows?
Is that right?
And the,
Yeah.
and the staff days are okay before Labor Day without, yeah,
Right.
okay,
Friday off.
okay.
Do we want to just say what it is for the people that aren't able to see the piece of paper?
Sure, that'd be great.
I'll wing it without my glasses.
Okay,
As best
we'll
I can.
correct you.
Look, it's awful small font. This has the staff showing up for, and our staff have 2 professional development days before the students arrive. So it would have our staff coming back on Wednesday, August 31st and September 1st. Then there's the Labor Day weekend, so everybody's off for a long weekend of Friday through Monday, with the first day of school for students being Tuesday, September 6th.
It's like an eye test.
Yeah. And then on the other end of the calendar, for those wanting to plan their summer vacations well in advance, this has the school year ending on the 21st of June. If Mother Nature is benevolent and has no snow days. Otherwise, we would be in until the 8th?
Yes.
But we're going to have no snow.
That's right.
Rain and sleep.
Ms. Seabrett Long?
The 19th of June.
It's Juneteenth. Yep, I just
Yeah, it's-
confirmed that, yes.
Thank you.
It's a
New one.
Yeah,
Federal
it's a
holiday.
new state holiday.
Are we going to be talking about, I know there's been a lot of conversation in my world, businesses, Columbus Day. I feel like they're phasing out Columbus Day and they're phasing in Juneteenth Day.
Indigenous peoples.
Yeah, well, no, not even changing the name, just getting rid of it. Like, I haven't heard anything on the school level that,
I think it's still with us.
it's still
For
with
now.
us on the calendar now,
Yeah.
so, okay.
For now.
Yep.
But it is
I-
being discussed,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the important thing is
Snack person.
just that it's at the moment a federal holiday, and so you have a lot of the services are closed.
Is it a federal holiday? I don't think so.
For
It's
Columbus
not.
Day?
If it was a federal holiday, I'd have it off, and I no
The
longer
stock
have it off.
market's open, just saying.
Yeah, it's not a federal holiday.
Bond market's closed.
That's why I was asking.
Banks are closed.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think because
the
some
mail
people,
doesn't
post
run.
offices,
The banks are closed, not all offices.
It's
It's
a
not a
weird-
federal holiday. I don't know if it's a federal holiday.
I thought the mail didn't run, but I don't know. We'll
The
check.
mail may not, I don't know.
Ask Mask.
Mask.
All right, any other questions, comments?
To make a motion.
So then this can come back next time for a vote. All right, extension of Cape Cod Collaborative Transportation Contract.
All right, that's me.
Mr. McMillan?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So I was feeling like I hadn't had a lot of time with you.
You're about to.
I've got
Yeah.
5 items here, so strap in.
You're here till the end.
It's going to be.
I always thought you had a mustache.
Well, you know.
Stop it.
Yeah. I have.
It's been 2 years, Michael, I forgot.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure I sound much clearer without a mask.
I guess in my mind.
So it is lovely to see the bottom half of all your faces. Yeah.
You did?
No, I never have. Even,
It was actually a full beard.
yeah.
2 years in my mind. I was like, under there, there's
Just
a
did a little
mustache.
goatee. Just, no, haven't even. But now I will grow one. All right.
Oh my, it just blew my mind.
So I have 5 items, I think, to go through. So the first thing is the extension of the Cape Cod Collaborative Transportation Agreement. So there isn't a vote required here. So you did vote to approve this agreement way back when it was first entered into, and as part of that, even at that point, I'm not sure, because it's not really a contract because it's with another local, a public body that we are a member of. So it's a great agreement. The agreement's worked really well for the provision of transportation services, being able to work closely with another not-for-profit organization, especially when you were going through, COVID and all the impact that had, being able to work with people closely who are not that far away from us and are also, really that we're part of their organization was a real benefit to the district. So we are more than happy to continue with this agreement for another couple of years. So I did provide some, some short analysis of the expenditure. As I say, it is hard to compare our expenditure of the last few years because COVID just kind of blew it all up in different ways. Some things have cost more, some things have cost less. We've had some federal reimbursement, but in the round, it does seem like we've managed to keep costs under control, and they have not increased significantly from previous years. And when we compare ourselves to other districts, we look in a good position, especially given that we are covering a large area and that we have 2 towns that we're covering. So normally you would expect us to be a little more expensive than other places anyway. So just any questions about that, but in summary, we're hoping to continue this agreement.
Scott?
Thanks, Michael. I had a couple of questions. One, do we have any issues with lack of drivers?
Yes, we definitely. So we do.
Still, or is that kind of
No, so
remedied?
it's not remedied, and I'm not sure there is, really a remedy on the horizon that's going to make this go away as a problem. There's a national shortage of drivers for all kinds of vehicles, buses and trucks, and so the collaborative did increase its rate of pay for drivers recently, which helped to retain staff, and also it made it a more attractive option. So it hasn't been.
Does that cost come to us?
Yes, so they just passed that straight on to us. So they agreed that with us and the other districts. They now have, I think, 6 other districts they work with. So they passed. So that cost just comes straight on to us. They don't have a profit margin or anything like that. They just charge us how much it costs.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, just as Michael said, there's a driver shortage for buses everywhere.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I was driving back, I was at a NEAC accreditation visit earlier this week, and I'm driving back, and there's like a big billboard as you're coming down the highway. It's drivers want it. I mean, that's I think everybody's sort of desperate for the drivers. I thought the Cape Cod Collaborative has done a nice job of trying to get get as many drivers in. I believe we only had one day and one bus that was impacted this year. And during the heart of the pandemic, where there was, we were short a driver, and there, all the subs were already being used. So, hopefully, the driver shortage will abate, and I think what you're seeing is market dynamics playing out. That if your pool is small, increase base pay, encourage more to come. So.
Okay. And then, so when we first did this, it was the concern of having it under our umbrella and how that was a good thing and also a stressful thing. How's that working out?
So, my
thinking.
perspective, obviously, I wasn't here prior to the collaborative being on board, but I have worked in other districts where we've done our own transportation, or I've done part in actually both my last districts. We did our own transportation, and this is way better. So,
good.
Although the collaborative, we work hand in hand with the collaborative, but they're at slightly at arm's length. So, hand in hand at arm's length. So they do, they deal with they deal with all the driver issues. They deal with the management of the buses. So that's great. We do have a Tony London in our office who does a great job of working with, and she's developed a really good relationship with the collaborative and working with, when we receive complaints from parents or issues raised or issues on buses or anything like that, and vice versa. So we know there's going to be delays on buses, and that's coming from the collaborative. Transportation is, beset with problems normally, and I'm not saying we've not had any problems. There's definitely been problems, but when there have been, the collaborative have been very receptive to trying to sort out the problems. They're really keen to work with us. They have skin in the game because they're part. We're really part of the collaborative. Mm-hmm. So, in terms of administration and headaches, it's definitely made our life. It definitely seems to me like it's made our life better.
Okay. I remember some of the challenges were parents weren't sure where to go with the complaints, and if they went directly to the company, the schools weren't aware of the complaints.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to have a central, this is where you call if you have a problem. And so everybody's aware of it now, which I think is
so.
huge
I'm sure there's still some times when things end up in the wrong place, but the relationship that Tony has with her counterpart at the collaborative has really helped with that. So they're talking regularly. And so that really makes, if someone calls Linda, who's the person in the collaborative, she's letting Tony know, and vice versa, and that really helps.
Okay, excellent. And then my last question, is it a one-year extension? Or is it
I can't remember. I think the plan is to continue for the next 2 years.
I was looking somewhere for it, and I just wanted...
Yeah, maybe I didn't see. I'm not sure if I didn't specify, but yeah, we have the option to extend for 2 years, and I think that's what we plan to do.
So would your vote be looking for a 2-year extension?
We're not actually looking for a vote.
Oh, okay.
It's just for information.
Oh,
It was on action.
it's on action items.
Oh, it is on action items? Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want to take a vote anyways?
You can take a vote if you like. Yeah, sure. It'd be nice to get your,
So
endorsement.
it would almost be you're just letting us know we have an indefinite contract with them?
No, definitely not indefinite. So
Okay, so what's...
although, so it's interesting because they're not a company.
Right.
So we're not there's not this quite, I think the district did go out to bid, but the bidding requirements are slightly different.
But we own the buses.
Yeah, well, we own them through the collaborative.
But if we leave the not leave the collaborative, but if we say
We are the collaborative, so.
Well, no, we tell the collaborative, we don't want you managing our buses anymore. The buses are ours, or we have to pay the collaborative back for the buses that we had them?
We would have to pay the collaborative back.
For the buses?
Yeah, because the
That's what I
collaborative
mean,
purchased the buses.
we're with them indefinitely until we say no.
So we pay off the buses,
the buses?
Yes.
But we're
Yeah, exactly, so eventually it'd be paid off.
slowly, but if we decide, like,
New bus.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly, so you pay them off just in time to replace them.
right.
So
Ain't got the way.
it's just the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah.
So,
Do you
So-
want,
like a vote?
Yeah, let's have a vote. It's on there.
it's on there for a
So-
vote, yeah, it
so-
is. So a 2-year extension?
Yeah, let's do it.
I won't do it now because I'm sure I'm assuming other people might have.
Any other questions?
I didn't mean to dominate.
Does Terry have any questions?
Do I hear a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would move that we extend the Cape Cod Collaborative Transportation contract for 2 years.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Ms. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Stout?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
He's on mute.
Can you unmute, Terry? That was your video.
We could come back to
We'll
him.
come back to you,
Yeah.
Terry. Ms. Tolley?
Aye.
Ms. Games?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Thank you, Terry. Ms. Zebret-Long?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Got a vote.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Unexpected gift.
All right, MSBA application.
All right.
Oh, you're
so,
back.
I hope that, is this on?
I don't think he's going anywhere.
Okay, good. This is definitely, this, don't want a vote for this one.
It's not listed.
Okay, good. So this is just an update. So, you know, we're working on 2 applications for the MSBA. So we have commissioned a review of both roofs. It's just taken a while to get that completed and then get the results back. You know, weather's not been super cooperative. These people are really busy right now anyway. So the work is just about completed. We're getting the report back. We should be getting the report back like within the next few days, and it'll be coming to you on the our next meeting on the 24th to get approval from you, hopefully, because it's due on the 25th. So it's it's a very tight timeline, so I didn't want to surprise you on the 24th if you had any big concerns.
okay.
But so we'll be coming on that date, hopefully to get your approval at the votes, the language of which I outlined in the handout. And the only real issue I see of contention is that we have to say in the MSBA application which is our priority project. So they ask us of the 2, which is our priority. So we'll really base that on the assessment we get from the evaluation of the roofs. So whatever they tell us, you know, we have no preference which school gets a new roof first.
Oh, I do.
So yes.
Mr. O'Shea was picking up shingles the other day when I dropped my kid off. Off the ground.
Yeah. So
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Can you?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Russell.
Madam Chair.
We're muted, Leah, aren't we?
Oh,
At this point, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to leave the meeting.
Okay.
okay, Terry.
Bye, Terry.
Bye,
Thank you,
Terry.
everyone. Nice to see you all.
Nice to
night.
see you.
Bye, Terry.
thank you.
Bye, Anne Marie.
Oh, wow.
She unmuted. All right. It's not muted, Terry, we can hear you. It's whispering, Anne Marie.
There you go.
There you go.
God love him.
Uh,
I know she did.
So that's the update. So I
Okay.
give you, so you get to see the report. So I will send out, as soon as we have that report, we'll finish the submissions. I'll send them to you as soon as they're ready, and then we'll hopefully come back to you for a vote at the next meeting.
Okay. Any questions, discussion?
Get my roof.
All right, moving right along. FY23 budget.
It's Michael.
Yeah.
Michael, welcome
All right.
back.
All right.
My
Yeah.
mustache.
Yeah.
Weird. And for my next act.
Yeah. So this one does require a vote for sure. So this is the next step in the development of the FY23 budget. So I'm asking for 2 votes today. One is for the budget itself, and the second is for the assessments. So in terms of the budget has not changed since the FY23 public hearing that we did a few weeks ago. So no change since then. It's a good budget. There's no services being cut as a result of this budget, and we are making some changes in grade 4 because of class sizes, but it's not budget driven. And we have been able to fund all the priorities that we wanted to in this year. So I think that's a great place to be right now. So I've not changed anything since, and nothing's been changed since then. It's just as we had. And then the second motion is for the assessments. So it's one motion, which is going to say, basically, we want, to approve the assessments based on the new methodology, and failing that, we'll have assessments based on the original methodology. So it's kind of the new methodology is the first approval. And if that doesn't get voted, then we fall back on the current methodology. So those assessments have changed a little since the public hearing. So we updated the foundation enrollment, which made very small, so the difference is that with the new methodology, we have to get the breakdown of enrollment by grade, foundation enrollment, which is a little trickier to get than the regular enrollment. Regular enrollment we have, and we can break it down any way you like. Foundation enrollment, it comes from a couple of different places that the state provides, a couple of different places, and then there's a formula the state uses to determine how foundation enrollment is calculated, because they take, so for example, they take pre-K is counted as a half student. So because they're not all here full-time, so they're half. So although it's not a head count, it's a full-time equivalent. And then there's a formula that has to be carried out to convert the numbers. So it's just a little bit more complicated. So we got the enrollment breakdown by grade for foundation enrollment, and we're able to update the figures. And so that made a big difference, but a big-ish difference to the assessments in the new method. And it moved just around $65,000 more over to Chatham, which is, it's unfortunate because they already saw that big increase. So we've updated the formula, but it's just the way the formula works out because of the way the numbers are broken down. And through that process, we did make a small change to the overall foundation enrollment number, just to an extra decimal point, and that changed $207 in the original method as well, which is obviously not such a big deal. But so that's really, there's no value judgment in that, except, there is in developing the process in the first place, but after, this is really just the math of applying the agreement as it's been developed for both those sets of figures.
Okay. Any questions, discussion? Ms. Gade?
If you don't mind, Michael, I meant to print out the kind of bottom line, so specifically for Harwich. So before, can you tell me again, on this budget we're voting on tonight, without the regional agreement thing that we're talking about? So tell me what the percentage is over last year again?
So using the current methodology.
Yes.
So our current methodology, the increase for Harwich would be 2.5%.
Okay.
Which is $680,155.
Oh, I picked up the wrong one. Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, so you were giving me numbers though. Go ahead, 2.5%.
2.5% and $680,155.
Okay, thank you.
So that would be the increase for Harwich under the current methodology. And then for Chatham under the current methodology, you got it? But it's worth just going through them. So under the current methodology for Chatham, it's a 2.9% increase, which is $249,143.
Okay.
So we've all been here before. That's a decent increase for Chatham as it goes. And, in recent years we've been seeing the numbers have been not like that under the existing methodology. And it's just that impact of foundation enrollment, because Chatham's enrollment didn't go down, whereas Harwich's did, and that's what's just made the change. So under the new methodology, Harwich's assessment would go down $59,000. So it's a reduction overall, it's a 0.2% reduction in their assessment. So what's not to like for Harwich? For Chatham, however, it's an increase of $988,000, so 11.6%. So that's, obviously a really significant increase. And that all comes from, so they've essentially, that's an almost $700,000 swing in the two methods from Harwich to Chatham. And that's all, that comes down, there's two things driving that. One, it's the moving over the cost of the Chatham Elementary School, and then that's on top of the changes in the foundation enrollment that we're also seeing in the original method.
Ms. Tully?
Did you say that the foundation enrollment in Chatham did not go down?
No, well, no, it did not. It went down one. It went from like 391 to 390 or 92 to 91, I think.
And that's
But
the
it's in
change,
that
so the change in the foundation enrollment, that's, what's the time frame that you're,
That's last. So yeah, so this is a really good point. So there's two numbers. So that number is that's this year's foundation enrollment, and that's what's based on that's determining some of the figures in the new method and how the state determines minimum local contribution. So those two things are factored in. And then there's another part of the agreements where we look at the prior 3 years of foundation enrollment, and there's other things going on there. But yeah, so so foundation enrollment didn't go down, whereas foundation enrollment did go down more in Chatham last year. So last year we were looking at different sets of figures, because there was a big drop during COVID in Chatham, and then it's kind of righted a little bit because it's, we've not, we've then gone level, whereas Harwich has kind of didn't see such a big drop last year and has just kind of kept going on.
Any other questions, comments? Sharon? Oh, Sharon, you're muted.
Thank you. So, because we're talking about budget, I have to ask this question here. Several other sessions, I've brought up the proposal for a therapist at the high school. And I looked at the budget, and that's not in this budget. And I know that, I don't know if Scott said it in our school committee meeting or to me, but I think it could have been in the school committee meeting, something about ESSER funds. So while we're talking about budget, I'd like to know that's a guarantee, that is happening. We can be sure that that's happening. If it's not happening someplace else, I'm gonna, I want it in this budget. That's what I've been advocating for. I don't care if it's in another budget as long as it's guaranteed to happen. So I'm asking that question to Scott or Michael or somebody.
Yeah, thank you very much. So there are a number of positions included in the ESSER funds. So that's the ESSER grants we have from the federal government to help respond to COVID-19. And I think, so they're not included in this budget because they're being funded out of ESSER. Now, if those positions are exactly what you're talking about, I'm not sure, and maybe that's something we can come back to at a future meeting, and I can come back and present more on the plan around social and emotional support and mental health support for students through the ESSER funds. But we are looking at counsellors and specialists through that grant. But it's a complicated, it's a complicated delivery mechanism. We're looking at different positions and services to help those needs of students.
All right, Scott, could you answer that? I don't know exactly how this happens for the ESSER funds. Will it come back to school committee to vote on, or is there the plan for this to happen for the high school, or where are we with this?
We can give another presentation on just where we are with the ESSER funding. So I know that Melissa and her team were coming up with a job description for what the clinical supports are going to look like, and what we need as a district. So we do have monies that are dedicated for clinical support and social emotional supports out of that ESSER grant.
So what I've asked for is a full-time therapist at the high school. And so I can't imagine anyone saying we don't need that. I really am looking for some kind of guarantee before we go ahead with the budget that that is going to happen, because it needs to. We are giving money to all kinds of other things, and this is critical.
Sharon, I wonder if, it sounds like there's, that Michael and Scott are putting a presentation together for us around the ESSER funds and the update around that, and I'm hearing that there's work being done on the job description for some of the SEL support, so I think that maybe there's a presentation coming from...
Because I brought this up at least 4 times, and the presentation should have happened by now. Here's the end of this budget, and I don't know that who is in charge of the ESSER funds? Do the school committee still the watchdog or the something for funds when it comes to that or not?
Yes.
So, Scott, will it come back to the school committee to vote for that then? The monies for the ESSER funds?
Yeah, ultimately, yes.
I'm sorry, I can't hear that well.
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right, then I will wait. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Scott?
Madam Chair, I would like to move to approve the FY23 budget by cost center. 1,000, district leadership and administration, $1,157,851. 2,000s instruction, $21,591,345. 3,000s other school services for $2,995,850. 4,000s operations and maintenance, $3,534,575. 5,000s fixed charges, $8,203,949. 7,000s capital, $146,000. 8,000s debt retirement and service, $1,879,625. 9,000s programs with other school districts for $3,292,209 for a total FY23 budget of $42,801,403.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Ms. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Stout?
Aye.
Ms. Tolley?
Aye.
Ms. Games?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Ms. Zebrat Long?
Aye.
And I am an aye.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
I'd like to move to approve the FY23 assessment to the town of Harwich in the amount of $27,301,458 and to the town of Chatham in the amount of $9,513,587 for a total FY23 assessment of $36,815,045, provided that if the proposed amendment to the district agreement is not approved by the town of Harwich, town of Chatham, and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, to approve the FY23 assessment to the town of Harwich in the amount of $28,041,205 and to the town of Chatham in the amount of $8,773,840 for a total assessment of $36,815,045.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Ms. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Stout?
Aye.
Ms. Tolley?
Aye.
Ms. Games?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Ms. Zebrat Long?
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right.
All right.
Moving right along, fiscal FY22 quarter 2 finance report and budget transfers.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. So don't worry, I'm almost done. So yeah. So this is a low, you've had busy agendas, so we're a little late for this because this is a quarter that ended in December. So I'll be having the third quarter will be here before you know it. But so this is just to give you an update on where we are with this year's budget. And so far, the budget is in good shape. We have a unencumbered, unexpended balance of 8.6%, so it's over $3.5 million. So that's good and healthy and compares well to previous years. And although we've hit a couple of bumps with revenue, where Medicaid charter tuition reimbursement and our interest are down, they're relatively small impact on the budget, and they're more than offset by a reduction in charter school tuition payments we have to make and school choice tuition payments we have to make. One more thing I wanted to highlight was that we received certification of our excess and deficiency funds from last year. So that's essentially the money we had left over that was unencumbered at the end of last year. The auditors came in and audited that, and we submitted it all to Department of Revenue, and they certified it a week or so ago, and that's at 1.8 million. So that is a reduction from the last couple of years. And that's in part because, it looks very neat, but it's partly because we have increased the amount we've been using from excess and deficiency for our, and it's used to offset the budgets. So as we've increased that, so in prior years it was like $500,000. In the last couple of years it's been up at $800,000. So we're now seeing excess and deficiency coming down. So obviously that's, I don't think we're not in a position to worry, but the auditor does say, you can't keep doing that because eventually you won't have any money left. So there, you can't do it forever. But it is good. 1.8 million I think is still a great position to be in. And otherwise, everything is really going according to plan. Some things that have helped is that we have a health insurance premium, a holiday, so we don't pay the premium 1 month this year, which has helped reduce our costs. We had prepaid some of our transportation costs at the end of last year, so that helps to reduce our costs this year. And that's all putting us in a good position. I think, I have included a chart that I use this chart to see really how we compare to previous year's trends of expenditure. So I often look at this chart or variations of it just to see how we compare and how we're doing. And as you can see, we're right where we were in the last couple of years, which is a good place to be, because we know that we were in on budget in those years as well, so that's good. There is a greater proportion of our budget is from salaries than it was in prior years, so I expect whereas in the past we'd have spent a little less going in, because if it was more supplies or contract services, you spend a little less on that as you go towards the end of the year, which as salaries are fairly consistent through to the end. So that means I think we should stay right about where we were in prior years, if not a little more, but not much more, and not worryingly so. And then one other thing I did include was I included our report on our student activities. So we, following the development of the new, as we updated the policy, we said we would include a report on student activities with our quarterly report. So that's in there this year. The most activity, which is often the case, is around our class of 22 as they plan for their end of the year for graduation and prom-related events and their class trip to New York. The Democrat Club, so we had approved a change to the political action group, and that's been updated because that had been called previously the Democrat Club. And the two activities which you approved in a previous meeting aren't there yet because they've just not had any activity, though they should be having some soon. This year so far, and then I've also included just a little update on the Lighthouse funds. It's something we talked about. So there has been around $3,000 spent from Lighthouse funds. About $500 of that has been gift cards for students in need, and the remaining activities have been for sort of school-wide kindness club activities and so on. But in that same period, we did receive a total of over $11,000 that went into the Lighthouse Fund. So, more than offset the expenditure, and that included a big chunk of that was from school photographs. And that's quarter two. So, I did also include with the quarter two report. So, what we do, with the new budget policy, so we can make transfers within major accounts, which is really helpful for just keeping things going. But any transfers between the major accounts is when we need your approval, and so I have an agenda item to request your approval on some transfers between major accounts. Is that a separate agenda item, or is it the same?
Same.
It's the same. All right, I'll just keep going. All right, so I realize I'm covering a lot, so feel free to interrupt me at any point, but in terms of a budget transfers, I've asked for 4 budget transfers, and 3 of them are coming from that surplus we have in school choice now. So because we have a surplus in school choice, I want to use those funds in 3 places. One is to offset an increase in property insurance. That's something we've talked about before, so we've seen that going up. It's impacting next year's budget, but we're already feeling the pinch now. We had to replace the high school projector, which is very costly, and but also it's a critical part of of events and so on that happens in the high school, so we'd like to get that done this year. And also we wanted to use that to update and replace some broken security cameras at the middle school. So those are 3 of the transfers. And the last one is really just fixing accounts, and we've talked about this as part of the FY23 budget, where we had funds budgeted in capital accounts to pay for technology. It really should be coming out of a different account, so we just want to transfer those funds across. Any questions? It's later on. If you're looking for it, it's after all the other documents. Keep going. Keep going.
Look at Nancy's.
That's not there?
That's what I'm trying to find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
there's
Email
there,
it to us.
yeah.
No, it's in my agenda
It
packet.
says
Yeah.
transfers on page 2 of, it's like the,
This right here. It's
No.
need more detail than that.
Yeah, no, so, so in my packet that was emailed round, it's there.
You emailed.
No, not me, I emailed the MSB, the budget and the
I saw it
MSBA.
somewhere.
Yeah, it's
did
in
it get connected to something else?
it's in the online packet, it's in the
Yeah.
email
Yeah.
packet.
I saw it. when
I
was
saw it.
looking online.
I can actually,
I
can
just
I
wasn't
share it, I
looking here 'cause
wonder?
I didn't.
I was looking, so I was trying to find it because I remember seeing
I
it
think I
somewhere.
can share it. How can I do that? Let's see. I can log in, right?
It might have been in the attachments, the follow-up,
It was.
wasn't it? Yeah,
I saw
Yeah.
it somewhere.
I saw it.
yeah, I think it
somewhere.
was it was extra attachments.
Is the total then,
I'm going to try and get it. Let's see if I can pay.
Let me see.
Is it online? I saw it somewhere.
Yeah, it was in the packet that Leah sent round.
That Leah sent out.
Yes.
Oh, the original one,
Yeah.
okay. I thought it was in the follow-up.
It's not in the follow, but I just looked at that.
This is the one that you sent.
It was in your packet, the original packet you sent round. It was in there.
I have to do that too.
Hold on.
Oh, yes,
Okay, I
perfect.
have it. If
You do?
Well, yes.
Look, it's up here.
Yes, we definitely don't have that. Quarter 2. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Sure it wasn't in a follow-up?
So I have the motion, but I don't know what. It doesn't share.
Do we need to list them by specific?
Cost centers?
Yeah.
They're up here, Nancy, they're up on the screen. So the
But
motion,
it doesn't show what's to and, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry.
So it is on page
You
3.
have it, Danielle? It's in here?
On the bottom of page 3? Is that what you were saying?
Top of page 4,
Oh,
in our packet.
oh, yeah.
yeah, but so,
Right,
Are you
It-
sure
Right.
it wasn't
we're
in?
missing that first.
Which I have.
Oh, so we have the second
So we
page.
do have- So that's in the packet, so we can make the motion on the information.
Right? Is this it? That's the second page?
yeah, so.
We're just missing the first page with the motion.
Well, so it was in the email that Leah sent out to you.
Yeah.
It was in
It's
that,
that.
and it's up here on the screen.
So can we,
Oh, there, oh.
I-
Huh, that's weird.
I can make a motion.
okay.
It's
So, I move to approve the FY22 Quarter 2 budget transfers as listed in the memorandum provided to the school committee dated March 7th. I'd prefer to read the cost centers.
Sure.
Is that, from benefits and fixed charges, account number ending in 1664, transferring $18,501 to programs with other school districts, account number ending in 1780. Move acquisition, improvement, and replacement of fixed assets, account number ending in 1743. Nope. I did it backwards. We're moving
Yeah.
from programs with other districts.
Whatever is in brackets is money moving
Right,
from
so
there.
I'm going to go back and do the programs with other school districts, account number ending in 1780, we're moving $18,501 into benefits and fixed charges, account number ending in 1664. Moving from acquisition, improvement, and replacement of fixed assets ending in 1743, amount of $45,000 into instructional materials, equipment, and technology, account number ending in 3546 for $4,822. Account number 3546, in the amount of $12,773, and account number ending in 3546, $27,405. And from programs with other school districts, account ending in 1780, the amount of $39,983 into instructional leadership, ending in 3425 for $13,370, ending in 3424 for $12,200, and acquisition, improvement, and replacement of fixed assets, ending in 1743 for $14,413. And finally, moving from programs with other school districts, ending in 1780, $17,839 into operations and maintenance, account number ending in 1614, in the amount of $17,839.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Sorry for
Second?
Discussion?
No, I found it finally.
Yes. You feel better?
I do. I was like, there it is.
Roll call vote, Ms. Rogers? Ms. Stout? Ms. Tolley?
Aye.
Ms. Games?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Ms. Zebret Long?
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right, moving right along to substitute nurse rate.
All right. All right, so apologies for the confusion. We got there.
Got there.
All right, well, thank you very much, and thank you for your perseverance. All right, what's my next? Is this
We get
are we
confused when you
nurseries?
take your mustache
yeah,
off.
nurse.
Nurseries. Okay,
Laptops.
yeah, I know.
That's right.
It's
There
not
you
in the
go.
budget.
I know it's
It's
not,
games.
I've got it.
but they have laptops and they can
you,
pull
yeah.
things up.
Committed it to memory.
That might
All
not
right.
help me, I don't know.
Chromebook, something?
We have a motion, we would like to request an increase in the rate for, the daily rate for substitute nurses. So, as you can imagine, nurses have become much more in demand during COVID, and they have become so critical to what's happening in the day-to-day running of the school. They always are, but they've been in higher demand during COVID, and we're asking them to do a lot. We were paying $150 a day for nurses, which does, other districts have started to increase their rate, and so we're finding it harder to attract nurses, and so we would like to increase our rate to $200 a day.
Any questions? Ms. Zebret Long?
I move to approve the increase of the rate for nurse substitutes to $200 a day.
Second.
Roll call vote, Ms. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Stout? Ms. Tolley?
Aye.
Ms. Games?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Ms. Zebret Long?
Aye.
And I am an aye.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
All right.
I will be back.
So the superintendent contract is going, we had a little paperwork snafu. So we were not able to get the draft agreement to all of us in a timely fashion, so we're going to move this discussion and vote to our meeting for March 24th, where we will have an executive session before the meeting to go over this in executive session and then bring it back to our open meeting. So, moving on to subcommittee representatives and liaison reports, and I will pass the mic to Ms. Games.
Thank you very much. So I attended a mask leadership workshop on Saturday in Marlboro, and with all the divisions across the Commonwealth. And I've just handed out the position papers for federal policy, because mask actually goes to Capitol Hill and, works on legislation on a federal level. So I've just kind of included what they're working on a federal level. And then we also, while I was there, and I did not have enough of these handouts, but on the state level, they also gave a legislative priorities briefing. And, just to touch on a few things, full funding of the Student Opportunity Act, earmarking special funding for small and rural districts, of which we are included in that. And then at vocational schools, diversity, equity, and inclusion. They do a lot of advocacy on behalf of, they work with the national school boards on the DEI work. Let me just skip over here. And then here's an exciting thing I thought that was interesting. They're also working on, advocating on a state level for incentives for students to become and remain educators. So there's a big effort being put in on a state level to encourage our students, our high school students, to go into teaching programs, and also at the college and university level. And so I was very excited about that. And then there's a loan forgiveness program that's also being advocated for individuals going into education. So that's very exciting.
It is.
And then there's also, additionally, another advocacy program for a leadership track for aspiring administrators. So there's also another advocacy bit, trying to encourage our students and our college kids to aspire to be a superintendent, perhaps, or director of curriculum, or special education. And so anyway, there's some exciting things going on. So it was a legislative briefing. Yes. And so I thought that was good, and enjoyed, of course, networking with my fellow folks across the Commonwealth. So I just wanted to provide that update.
Excellent. Any questions, comments? Ms. Stout?
Yes, Ms. Games, could we send something maybe would it be helpful for our school committee to send a letter of support for that, or would you just want to update us? What would be appropriate, do you think?
Are you talking specifically about
the college scholarships for education?
Yeah. That's a good question, Sharon. I will look into it and get back to you. I think it's just something they're advocating for on a state level, but that's a good question. And usually they do reach out to school committees to kind of get on a list of endorsements. So when that comes, I will absolutely be reaching out to Meredith and everybody to see if we can put forth a letter of endorsement. Yes.
Ms. Tolley?
Can you speak a little bit more about the advocacy platform related to rural districts?
Yes, I can. Let's see. So let me just look at my little PowerPoint notes. Hold on a second. So it's about supporting districts with small and declining enrollments and communities with limited economic growth. It applies to Barnstable County, Berkshire County, Hampden, Hampshire, and Franklin County. So those are the counties that have the smaller populations. And they're looking at evidence where, like what we're kind of facing, say in Chatham, with the whole initiative of 365. And so what they're seeing is a lot of the families aren't able to stay. So kind of a twofold thing. So they're leaving their small towns to go where they can get jobs, which impacts the enrollment. So they're earmarking funding and trying to, like in partnership of working with something like what you're doing in Chatham, like 365, kind of partnering to get the economy and the job opportunities. Yeah, so they're recognizing that that is linked.
Can I ask a
Sure.
follow-up question? Where does, when they say earmarking funding, what exactly does that mean? Are they advocating for state funds to be earmarked?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because there's I think if I have the title correctly, there's a Rural Schools Commission that's on the state level. So they're kind of like the overseers, oversight, and there's several different members. And so they kind of follow a lot of this legislation that ties to this. So they're advocating for earmarking, like pulling certain funds for certain districts. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, and just additional funding to certain districts that they may or may not be getting at this point. Does that make sense? And Scott, you may have something to add, do you? Okay.
Well, I wonder about opportunities on the horizon for any sort of collective, if it's county-wide, I wonder what that means for all of the districts in our county to get involved or support or, be part of that conversation, because it seems kind of significant that we're one of 5 counties statewide that have been identified.
Yeah, and we have representatives on this commission and even within MASC, people that are in those school districts. So they kind of pull representatives through MASC to put them on this little task force. And then there's a state task force that MASC puts forward names. So, yeah, I can get you more information about that. Yeah. They actually had a breakout at the conference, at the MASC conference. They had a whole entire breakout session devoted to the rural school districts. Yeah. I'll follow up with you and give you more information.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, moving right along. Dr. Carpenter, Superintendent's report.
In terms of recognitions, we'd like to thank Chatham Works and Lindsay Bearworth for their donation of $100 to support the class of 22's Harlem Wizards fundraiser. It says that it's being held as we speak in the gym. I don't know, that may have been held as we speak in the gym. We'd like to thank and recognize the work that both Holly Thing and Joy Jordan did to make the online kindergarten registration possible this year. Holly started the process about 5 months ago and has been working in the background to set everything up to make the process more accessible to families and more streamlined for district staff. Holly and Joy worked together as the project got ready to launch and communicated out to families, created flyers and how-to videos, creating different translations of it as well, getting the word out and making everything easily accessible so that kindergarten registration has launched. And then the last of the recognitions, we would just like to recognize that this meeting needs to end soon because Meredith needs some time to celebrate her birthday.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll just quickly end
18.
with the COVID report. I know that as we were heading into our last meeting, the concern was that we would see a spike upwards after the February vacation. We've seen a little increase, but I think things are still manageable. Last week, I put out to the staff, we did pool testing the Monday following the break, and we were only down to 2 positive pools, which was great, given that, 2 months earlier, we were, struggling to have people in the building, and about a quarter of the staff and students were out and ill. We report every Wednesday to DESE, so last Wednesday, we reported that we had 2 new COVID cases at CES, 1 at HES, 4 at the middle school, and 4 at the high school. But that reporting last week was over a 2-week period of time because it was from before the vacation to the week of vacation. So it was actually a total of 11 new cases in 2 weeks. So the Cape and our Monomoy community was in a really good place. We've seen a bump up, and it's a small one, but we have to keep in mind now that this is now a 1 week data point because it was last Wednesday to this Wednesday. Good news is on Tuesday morning, the computer wasn't pinging at all. We had no positive pulls this week. We have seen an increase in COVID, though, and an increase more on the student end than on the staff end. So we see that we have 2 new positives in the past week at Chatham Elementary School for students and 2 for staff. 5 new student cases at Harwich Elementary School, no new cases for staff. 2 new cases at the middle school for students, only 1 for staff. And this is sort of a good one, is that we only have 1 new student case at the high school. You know, so it seems to kind of ebb and flow between the buildings, but we're in a very manageable place, with only 3 staff that that have contracted COVID in the last week. That's a manageable place to be, and even with the students, only 10 students over the last week. So keep on, or keep knocking on wood, and hopefully that's just a temporary bump that we're seeing after the vacation, and that we're going to see the numbers drop down like they were kind of quickly heading right after vacation. But we're in a good place, and let's just hope things keep on that way.
Any questions, comments? All right, so we just have a couple action items. We have 1 payment of a prior year invoice that I'm looking for a motion.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Scott?
I move to approve the prior year invoice to Deep Learning Capacity Building for Mark Smith in the amount of $250.
South Coast.
I'm sorry, to South Coast. There's all these numbers, and I was trying to figure out, making sure I was reading the right total. To South Coast Educational Collaborative.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Ms. Rogers? Ms. Stout?
Aye.
Ms. Tolley?
Aye.
Ms. Games?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Ms. Zebrat Long?
Aye.
And I am an aye. We did have the presentation of warrants, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Ms. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Stout?
Aye.
Ms. Tolley?
Aye.
Ms. Games?
Aye.
Ms. Scott?
Aye.
Ms. Zebrat Long?
Aye.
And I am an aye at 8:29, adjournment at 8:29.
Thank you very much.
Have a great evening.